This is the dumbest idea I've ever had. Hello and hey, today we're messing around with Path of Exile, and this time I'm going to see if I can beat the campaign all 10 acts without allocating a single point into the oh-so-prolific passive skill tree. But even with an unappealing goal like that, given enough time, it could be completed by literally anyone. So all you have to do is keep throwing yourself in those boss fights, do a little damage, get one-tapped, respawn, go back in, you get it. That wouldn't be particularly interesting, at least not for me. It's just more just figuring out how fast it can be done. I'm no racer. So we'll need to set some additional restrictions to make it a proper challenge. Firstly, hardcore. It needs to be hardcore so that we can't just overpower the game with the aforementioned bossing loop. It has to be something that doesn't just require time. Next, and it's a big one, no stash solo self-found. This set of words forces character-locked itemization, no trades, no carrying over gear from failed attempts, nothing. Our character versus Ray class. The lack of storage also means that we'll have to be even more selective with our currency and gear, as juggling gear outside of the inventory would be extremely tedious. Possible, but terrible. And lastly, kind of piggybacking off the last one, while we are able to use the crafting bench, we are not able to craft anything that our specific character wouldn't have access to. Since we can't actually reset the crafting benches without making a new account, don't want to do that, it's just something that we'll have to self-monitor. And that's it. Only a few extra rules, but grueling ones. I'm gonna be real. I 99.99999% cannot do this. I'm just a normal softcore trade player. I make my own builds, but I'm comparatively slow to maps. I enjoy farming the highest tier vanilla content, but never really push beyond that. I've never attempted to go for level 100. And a very, very important note for this challenge, I never play hardcore. It's not something that I'm entirely opposed to, like the model of extreme risk. Simply, the possibility of losing everything to a small lapse in internet connection is discouraging enough to me. But enough about me. Just wanted to make sure that you all go in with the context that I am not, repeat, not, a highly skilled racer attempting this daunting task, just an everyman that wants to throw himself against a seemingly insurmountable challenge. I'll be filling you in along the way, showing you my failures and lamenting my perfectly reasonable RNG. But before we truly begin, I'd like to say, with a prediction, that I think I can see myself being very, very pleased with just an Act 5 Kitava victory. If I'm able to do anything else, it'll be a bonus. But if all else fails, even if it takes another video, I have to take down Kitava before I'll be sated. With that, let's begin. With Act 1, I figure I'll just be winging this. In my head, if I'm going to be doing barely any damage, I'd like to be doing barely any damage a fair number of times with many, many friends, which is polarizing to be sure, but I'm going minions. We're going Witch to get the highest base intelligence and access to relevant quest rewards, and with major bosses like Brutus and Merveil, I'll be incredibly embarrassed if we need a restart. That being said, Merveil has been no joke for a little while, so don't want to look past her just like that. Okay, Brutus only really has his telegraph slams, but since we'll be staying away from him, it absolutely should not be an issue. As expected. And as we approach Merveil, I'm actually starting to worry. She's the only enemy in Act 1 that realistically has a chance to take me out. Brutus could have slammed our faces, but that same style of sitting back while the minions do the work that countered him so perfectly will be put to the test, as the huge area denial will likely destroy my offense for long sections of time. And to be completely honest, having to show losing to Merveil is enough pressure to avoid embarrassment. That was one of those fights where a W is a W. Don't worry about the margin of victory. Poor showing by me, and we're going to have to improve a lot to reach our goals. And I might as well take this opportunity to speak about gearing. Just didn't want to completely overload you at the beginning of the video. Had to give you some action. Our items need to fill very specific requirements for us. Yes, we need resists. Yes, we want life. But to keep this slow-moving trade rolling, we must have attributes. You get an absurd amount of them from your passive skill tree, and they're required to use your gems and your gear. If you're trying to replace a piece with a specific attribute already in place, you're likely going to need to craft that same stat onto an open suffix or get incredibly lucky with that drop. Luckily, the crafting bench has attribute crafts unlocked by default, and the heavy build exists to give us guaranteed strength. The stress on each item slot other than the belt is going to build over the run, whether I'm able to mention it or not. But even getting our main stat, intelligence, to be able to socket a level 17 main gem like summon skeletons or raise zombie, we need 134 intelligence, over 100 more than our starting value. Keeping in mind that our other starting values are 14, we have to keep our ability to actually socket in useful gems and useful items. We need a heavy mix of all attributes. Dexterity, helping the least in high amounts for this particular build, but we'll take anywhere we can. Strength, as well, cannot be undervalued. It is more life, and helps our greatest defensive ability, Steelskin, grow to literally more than our life total, if we can live that long. Gearing is paramount in this highly restrictive mode. Already Act 2, I realized that we're basically just going to chain fights together until I rip. So starting first with these bandits, despite the crit multi doing nothing for us, Alira is a pretty easy call to ease the load of itemizing elemental resistances. The others are more attractive than usual, just because physical reduction is going to be really hard for us to come by, but for the foreseeable future, we're helping Alira. Even on a 2.5 link totem and a couple of 2 link minions, Kraken doesn't scare me at all. Just make sure to replay that line when he one-taps me. One down, one to go. After a quick trip to Lion Eye's Watch, we're gonna be fully prepared to take on Oak in his clubhouse. Our laughably low damage is already starting to show, however, so his regen, specifically from the Enduring Cry, would be a huge issue if a gem like Frost Bomb did not exist. But as long as he doesn't leaf slam onto us continuously, kind of targets our minions a few times, he shouldn't burn through my health pots, and I'm feeling pretty confident like I was with Kraken. That was way smoother than I thought. Alright, just run over here and collect our reward from Alira. We're set to take on Weaver, who, if Oak was anything to go off of, should be pretty smooth. A couple patches ago buffed Vitality, and our extra group of minions should be kind of able to thin her swarm back efficiently. So as long as I don't stand next to her, much like Brutus, I don't think that we'll have any issue with this fight either. This is going really well. As expected. And I didn't mean to roll up with a smurf to this particular boss fight, but I'm certainly not going to turn Einhar away. Vol Oversoul is another one of these fights where as long as I don't stand like right next to him while he does the 2 attacks that can really, really hurt, I'll be fine. Damage shouldn't be too big of an issue with Einhar backing me up, but would definitely love a 4 link as fast as possible in Act 3. It might get a little scary from here on out. Wish me luck, guys. In Act 3, we'll be rounding up our collection of skill gems and taking on some more formidable bosses. The fights are going to be starting to get a lot longer, so apologies if they begin to drag. I know that I'll have to edit some of these longer encounters down. So while we consider my pretty low health pool, it could mean that I'll lose the character at any moment, so finding that balance is going to be tough for me, but I'll try my best. Well, after waltzing through the first act of Act 3 of not really exciting enemies or bosses, we finally get to some more serious encounters. And if I didn't have capped fire resistance, I would be pretty worried about this. Gravicius isn't even a required boss, but I do want to see how much the Raised Spectre Gem in its slightly nerfed state will be able to help us. I'm pretty confident that he won't be able to just absolutely destroy us, but this is the point where we need to start actually worrying. Yeah, he really didn't do like half the damage I was expecting him to. A little bit boring. Sorry. Approaching the second piety fight, my life pool is starting to come into question a little bit. I think my resist will be enough to prevent total one-shots for a little while still, especially if that melee form does half fire or something like that, for which I haven't looked up the amounts or these bosses or how they work. However, I'm going in fairly confidently, expecting a pretty slow fight. Again, went surprisingly well. Already to the end of Act 3, this fight was one of the ones that I had in my head when I decided I was actually going to do this challenge that might prove troublesome. It's not even Dominus that's the scary bit. It's going to be the uniques that bust out into the couple waves at the start. I'm going to have a hard time just keeping my minions up, and if 2 of them can get on me at once or land hits from across the arena, I think I'm just kind of toast here. I'm feeling probably just as nervous as the Merveil fight. That one was for embarrassment. This one is because I probably need to start playing reasonably well. Whew. Let's go. The Cyclone guy really early on had me super worried. That took over 7 minutes? How am I supposed to make the video? It's gonna be a feature film! Have a bit of cautious optimism while entering Act 4. It's slow going, but I'm comfortable with the bosses I'm gonna face, even if there are like 9 of them. Need to upgrade life and get a dang 4-link, but we're kinda cruising, and I love it. Vol is gonna be like Brutus or the Weaver. If I just don't stand next to him, shouldn't be too hard. And just like those two, my build just hard counters its most dangerous aspect. Did not expect the Tormented Spirit. That slightly quicker charge up on the abilities threw me off way more than it should have. Definitely need to focus more in this act and not take anything for granted. Maybe I should feel a bit more concerned about after, misplaying the Vol fight, but Duresso feels like he's probably the easiest boss fight I have left in the entire rest of the game. If he just stuns lock me, I'm done for, but sure. But like others, if my minions keep him off me, I just don't see me losing. If I stand in one of his like little, blade fields, sure. Like if I super duper misplay, I can die here. But my confidence is through the roof right now. Pretty much like how I thought, feeling pretty good. Obviously not loving how slowly I'm taking these guys down, but it'll work. I honestly don't know if Calm is scarier, but in my head he certainly is. Between the area denying arena shifts, his ability to hit from across the screen, and calling in those reinforcements, the dynamic will totally shift against me, so wish me luck. That might have felt more hectic than it actually was, but that was a fun boss fight. This challenge is kind of heating up. Bring on the rest. Alright, here we go. Another boss fight that's sure to wipe out my minions and force me to constantly be on the move. Most concerned about the blood explosion circles stun locking me into Piety's attacks. Kind of worried. Just got to avoid. I believe these are the types of moments that hardcore regulars do it for. Having it all hang in the balance, but you play well enough and find success in the end. I'm surprised how rewarding this feels when not coming in to the fight ultra confident. It's pretty awesome. I definitely recommend this. I've decided to skip past the Malagaro, Chevron, Doedri fights because I'm sure this video is insanely long already. Looking at you, 7 minute. Dominus fight. Doedri, sorry. Could have one-shot me, but safe enough to just kind of keep moving all the way across the arena while my boys whittled her down. It wouldn't have been super interesting to watch those, especially as we're starting to heat up with these sort of conflicts. However, the resulting fight of getting the organs is sure to be another interesting one. Malachai's biggest attacks come from standing still or being right next to him, so on one hand, it should go better than the last couple fights. But being that every big fight is like one mistake away from being over, my nerves are still super high. Let's get it. Again, this was the sweet spot of this challenge. I have to participate in the mechanics, I can take little hits, and the fight isn't being instant phase. This is incredibly fun. On to Act 5. Between Avarius and Kitava, I have no confidence. Like, I know I just said to bring it on, but really, the mobs in between these bosses are approaching that one-shot threshold. I'm super happy with how this has gone so far, having a ton of fun, but remember my immediate goal. I need to take down Kitava, and I won't stop till I do it. Okay, minions are the right style to find success in this fight. I don't really know what the damage on me is going to be like. My resists are way harder? My resists are way higher than my normal softcore, just run through the game without caring style. Life pool is obviously way lower too. He's definitely going to need to hit you with multiple shots of that Toho bullet hell section, and that could be enough to finish me. I'm not ready to say goodbye to this character, but it could happen. Yes, that feels good. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself, especially because some parts got a little choppy in there, but bring it on, Kitava. Finally here at the big boy Kitava, was hoping to shore up my resists a bit more so that I'm not back to the 45% range when flipping over into Act 6. But like was stated near the top of the video, I don't want to turn this into a time sync challenge. I'm high enough level. Nerves are fairly high, but I'm feeling pretty good, especially after that Avarius fight. Main thing is going to be to watch out for those big punches. When he winds back, it just throws hands. But we'll try our best. See you on the other side. Damn it. No one is more disappointed than me, so what happened? Did my brain just completely 404 there? No. And as far as I know, latency was perfectly normal too. That was completely on me, but let me explain why I stood there. Okay, so I immediately saw his little palm upturn thing because I didn't know exactly where I was when he started that, and because that left side of me was being slightly obscured by the moving blood pool things, my eyes shot immediately to the right side of my character. I wanted to walk sort of that straight down right, but I was afraid the terrain would kind of shove me directly into one of those closing in circles, for which I wasn't 100% what shape had formed around me. So I waited and waited for the graphics to show, and then right before the last blast, I was going to flame dash out. Something I've done in like every Kitava fight I've ever done. They just never showed. I take full responsibility for that because it was a huge misplay. I had everything up. I just stood there. If I did anything, this would be so much easier to swallow. Just move, right? I had a chance at living if I tapped Steel Skin, but alas I didn't. That has to be among the most disappointing performances in my entire gaming career. I wanted this specific victory so badly, and I was the one to goof it up, and in such a just dumb way. So do you think I'm done? Absolutely not. the Redux. Didn't do any ritual along the way this time. I'm 100% more nervous heading into this fight, but like I said, this isn't over till I'm minus 30% all res. Let's get it this time. Yes! Just let off a fist pump that would make the most extreme Tiger Woods efforts look like he was casually swatting away a gnat. The redemption to come right back and take down Kitava after how disappointing that first try was, is nearly indescribable. Definitely the most passionate I've been about PoE in a long time. And we're still going. Everywhere else that we're able to kind of go and do things, it's going to be icing on the cake. Get to play a little bit more loose. I cannot wait. Act 6 has a lot of interesting boss fights, but not many required ones. My gear is less to resist than the first attempt at the playthrough, so purity of elements is going to be required here, especially the fire-heavy Pantheon lads early on into the act. Definitely entering situations where I definitely can be one-shot between boss fights, and I'll do my best to try to lose the character in a boss fight, but no promises. Tukohama is back to the style of constantly running away while minions power him down. If I fall here though, I'll definitely deserve it. Feeling good. First Pantheon, that'll actually be helpful. The graphic here doesn't quite match the order for the only time of this entire playthrough, just kind of denoting the mandatory from those that could be skipped. Regardless, I'm one Super Brutus away from losing the character, going to standard. So as long as I don't get one-shot by the grappling hook move that he has, like if it cannot one-shot me, I'm pretty confident. Just don't stand under the lightning strikes that have like 6.5 decades of telegraphing. Here we go. Should have taken the fight more seriously in my head, because it was pretty easy to rip there. Walked close to some slams, but never really felt in serious danger. This is good. If I stand in the wrong place, Abarath can definitely make me pay, but this ultimate Goatman is going down. can't think of too many places where Burning Ground would matter pre-maps, especially over the other Pantheon choices that I'll have if I can keep this character alive. Still, another bonus boss. I'm jazzed. The return of Einhar. Brought some backup for this fight. Again, not intentional. With minus 30% chaos resistance and a low life pool, they're cause for concern. But honestly, getting able to play like super loose is really freeing, and I think I'll play better because of it. Had a couple of Monka-S moments in there, but no true threats. The great Pantheon to keep our life flask full is going to be great, and we're about to get to the end of the act already. I'm wondering when this train is going to abruptly jump track. Soagoth is another one of those bosses that, when I was thinking about before actually attempting this challenge, if I can even get there, I'm gonna like just lose it entirely. Like, this is gonna be an impossible fight. But considering that I'm generally not capped on cold or lightning resistance when I do this fight, maybe I do have a chance here. I don't know the damages on the lightning call, or even how much DPS the cold ocean does, but I feel pretty strong. Getting to Act 7 wasn't in my head as a possibility, especially after, you know, falling flat on my face in that first Kitava event, and especially not just on the second try. But I'm kind of stumbling over myself here because I'm kind of beside myself. I'll try my best, but even if it's something silly like, you know, flashing out into the middle of the ocean, I probably lose the character. Resurrect in town. Nervous about this fight, but I think I can do it. Nice. Not sure if I got lucky on the lightning damage, since that tends to have some pretty insane ranges, but I was way closer than I thought, like, to just kind of plowing through that fight. That was back Act 7, baby. In Act 7, Arakali is sitting at the end of this act in a slightly concerning fight, though my build style hard counters hers. So hopefully I don't doom myself by looking too far ahead, but having sort of breezed through Act 6, I'm as confident as ever. First things first, though. Let's get there. Alright. Heading into Malagaro, I'm not super concerned. He's got his summon monsters at HP thresholds, but those guys shouldn't be too big of an issue. Minions, again, counteract them pretty well. Malagaro's teleporting on top of me could be something my low fizz reduction doesn't like, but yeah, just keep moving. I do know. Okay, cool. There was one spot in the entire arena that I could have died. Oh, I had everything up again too. You gotta be. Oh man. I was just waiting for him. I wasn't watching his attacks. I thought he targeted me, so I just kept moving. I don't know, looked at my flasks or something. And he just didn't target me, and I walked to the only spot on the entire screen where I'm definitely not gonna make it. Dude, not him. Of all... Really? That's legitimately worse than the Kitava rip. Okay. Oh, man. But you know what? I'm not gonna leave you there. Barely into Act 7. You clicked on a video that said it's going to attempt to beat the entire game without the skill tree, and I can still give you that, even if I failed my own challenge. Let's get it. It's amazing how tight I played this fight compared to the first time. Like, I feel like I was almost always walking into the same type of attack. Amazing how the ignorance helped me the first time, but let's keep it going. Still pretty easy. I'll never die to that attack again. Ralakesh, complete cakewalk. I'm starting to look ahead again. I feel like if I just didn't make that dumb mistake, I would have gone quite a ways here. Gruth Cole never stood a chance. Also not mandatory, so not much to add, and maybe I should start skipping these as we kind of get near the end of the campaign.
Our Akali, like I said from the start of the very beginning, a bit worrying, but my style suits here, have already ripped, so there's kind of no pressure. I just don't want to do it again. Felt pretty solid. Feels just extra bad to have lost the character to Malachai of all things. Definitely would have breezed into Act 8. Pushing through though, pushing through. Act 8 holds the most testing numbers check until Kitava, at least without ever fighting the Act 9 bosses with no skill points. But Solaris and Lunaris are gonna take me out. I can basically promise that. But let's get into the act. Duedri is just like Malagaro and Chevron. I always say that name weird, but the type that I need to take more seriously than I probably will. But with the rip out of the way, I'll probably just fight with whatever form pops up and see how I kind of fare at that. Well, dashed into another rip. Lacks the true disappointing nature of losing the character. That's something that you definitely want to valve over to the green form. And she needs to be taken seriously, which is perfectly reasonable for an Act 8 boss. But with the second death now, I'm going to probably show less and less just because it's less interesting. And I feel like I have lost less by just kind of randomly losing the character to Malagaro. So with that, let's go.
Once more.
Went ahead and skipped past Yugal. I'm going to go ahead and skip past other non-required bosses for the sake of this video. But as we come to Solaris and Lunaris, it's really a question of how many times I'll get popped. Also want to find out if this is enough life to survive a hit, because if I get comboed out by most skills, that gives me hope for the future. It's going to be a tough fight, but I'm excited to find out where this character stands against them. I just know I'm going down. Dang, 2 rips, but honestly, I'm filled with hope. They're definitely possible. I would have lost my character here 100%, but that's just because I wasn't prepared for it. Didn't know what damage I could take with the low health pool and no defenses and stuff like that. But now that I know that, I honestly think I could do it. You know, who would have thought, like a scrub like me getting all the way to Act 9? Well, we might be onto something here. Act 9. Between General Addis and the Basilisk, there are some opposing mandatory bosses in Act 9, though again, minion style should allow us to avoid most of their devastating attacks much more easily than other builds. Though, the long fights will definitely reduce the watchability without the risk of a hardcore rip. I was completely surprised by how long the General Addis fight took. I guess I just did not expect how much health he had. I've never looked at it. You know, you always have a pretty formed build when you come into Act 9. He ended up taking me out a couple times, and I feel like, at least once I should say, and I just feel so bad about it, because it's not that frustrating because I just wasn't taking him seriously enough, but this is absolutely a boss that needs your attention if you're trying to do this run, because he just controls the arena for you. It is much more of a problem than I anticipated. Jumping all the way forward to the Depraved Trinity, the arena kind of filling up with globes and damage could definitely prove a problem for our low damage build. I really, really want to pull this off without adding to our rip count, so go ahead and wish me luck. Kind of frustrating, just a couple more rips. Just, not playing smart enough. Wanting a little bit more life here, but you just can't get that. You need the stats, you need the resists. You can't just, skimp on those. So it's going to be interesting if I retry to do this challenge, but with only a couple rips here, I'm not completely discouraged. It's totally possible. Just need to focus and play your heart out, and that should be, more than doable. There really isn't anything to speak of in Act 10. Pretty much everything can one-shot us, but assuming safe travel through the spaces between bosses, if I slow down enough to not just get, kind of whacked on the way through. Avarius hardly even counting in his reduced form in Act 10. I am not worried about him whatsoever. If I rip on him, I'll show that. Otherwise, I think we're good. Kitava is just the only mandatory thing that stands in the way of beating the campaign without skill points. So we'll go ahead and jump you right into the action. This is going to be an extremely long fight, and I will definitely die a lot. The ads will be able to one-tap me on top of literally everything that Kitava does in the fight that's going to kill me. Getting a character to this point with all the restrictions of the challenge is definitely possible. The insane step up in difficulty will come at Kitava. Considering that I, lost the character in Act 7, it's easy for me to say that, but Kitava would be the ultimate challenge, as he should be, in an Act 10 situation. I'm fairly relieved and surprised to see that that's actually the case, and I'll do my best to make it an interesting experience, so wish me luck. I'd never thought I'd actually go through on beating the campaign without skill points, and despite everything, it's been a blast. But we're gonna have a lot of deaths. With that, our time together is over. To step through into Oriath, millions of deaths later, we definitely failed our challenge. For now. Though I'll be back.
It's over.
I'll be back. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be safe, guys.